it was Chapter 3, When Dreams Heard. Echo had always been grateful for his dreams. Unlike many people he knew, he remembered them vividly and often found them more refreshing than sleep itself. They were usually peaceful, sometimes transcendent, floating through cosmic landscapes, having conversations with wise beings, experiencing the sort of unity consciousness that the Institute spent billions trying to help people access for a few minutes at a time. But, after the session in Laboratory 7, his dreams had become something else entirely. He was running through a city that looked like Neo-Singapore, but felt older, more desperate. In his arms, he carried a child maybe 3 years old, whose trust in him was absolute and devastating. The child's small hand gripped his shirt as buildings collapsed around them, as reality itself seemed to be fracturing. "Papa," the child said with perfect calm, "where are we going?" And Echo realized, with the horrible clarity that only comes in dreams, that he didn't know. Worse, he was planning to leave the child somewhere safe and run toward a light that promised cosmic understanding, eternal peace, escape from the terrible responsibility of being someone who could be called Papa. Somewhere safe, he lied, and felt the child's trust like a weight that could break the world. Echo woke gasping, his neural harmony band pulsing urgent orange distress patterns that would be automatically logged and analyzed by the city's consciousness monitoring systems. The bio-responsive walls of his apartment had shifted to deep purple streaked with red, colors he'd never seen them display before. 3:17 a.m. The third time this week he'd woken from dreams that felt less like sleep and more like being forced to watch his own worst possibilities. He sat up, running his hands through his hair, trying to shake the feeling of small fingers clutching his shirt. The child in the dream had Maya's eyes, the same eyes he'd seen in the little girl who'd waved at him from the consciousness garden. But the voice had been different, older, calling him Papa with the sort of trust that assumed he would never leave, never choose transcendence over presence, the sort of trust he had betrayed by running toward the light. Echo stood and walked to his window. The city was quieter at this hour, its spiral towers dimmed to soft bioluminescence. But even in the peaceful pre-dawn light, he could see the layers now. The upper levels, where people like him lived with their advanced neural monitoring. The mid-levels, with their standard consciousness access. And the lower areas, barely visible from his height, where the community members from the Institute probably lived, the ones who were exploring consciousness with nothing but breath and intention, while being told they needed to wait 18 months for permission. How many of them were having dreams like his? How many were remembering lives where they had made different choices, better choices, choices that honored connection over cosmic escape? His tablet chimed softly. A message from Dr. Chen, time-stamped just minutes ago. Echo, I know it's late, but your distress patterns are showing up on the city grid. Are you experiencing the painful memory phenomena again? If you need to talk, I'm awake. The data we're seeing from several subjects suggests these difficult experiences might be approaching some kind of culmination. You're not alone in this. Echo stared at the message. Several subjects. So he wasn't the only one being haunted by impossible memories of betrayal and abandonment. Others throughout Neo-Singapore were waking up night after night, forced to witness their own capacity for choosing enlightenment over love, cosmic consciousness over human responsibility. But why? What was the point of consciousness showing them their worst possibilities? He was about to respond to Dr. Chen when his apartment's emergency alert system activated. A calm, synthesized voice filled the room. Attention residents, the city is experiencing an unscheduled consciousness fluctuation event. This is not a drill. Please remain in your homes and maintain mental stability protocols. Citizens with advanced neural monitoring will receive individualized guidance. Expected duration, unknown. Repeat, this is not a drill. Through his window, Echo could see Neo-Singapore beginning to shift, not physically but in some way that made his expanded consciousness from yesterday's session seem to activate on its own. The spiral towers weren't just buildings anymore. They were massive neural pathways in some city-sized mind that was beginning to dream, and the dream was troubled. Echo felt it wash over him in waves, the collective unconscious of millions of people beginning to surface simultaneously. But it wasn't the beautiful, unifying experience that the Institute's literature promised. It was raw, unfiltered, and full of shadows that individual consciousness usually kept carefully contained. Fear, rage, despair, guilt. The accumulated weight of millions of people's unprocessed pain rising to the surface of the city's awareness like oil spilling on water. But underneath it, something else. A vast, patient intelligence that seemed to be saying, look, see what you have been avoiding. This is also part of what you are. Echo's neural harmony band began flashing urgent red patterns indicating he should activate emergency consciousness stabilization protocols. Instead, he found himself removing it entirely and setting it aside. If consciousness wanted him to see something, he was going to see it clearly. The moment the monitoring band left his temple, the city's troubled dreaming hit him with full force. He was no longer just Echo Chen, junior consciousness technician with a comfortable apartment and unexamined privilege. He was simultaneously the woman from the community area, meditating with perfect posture while being told her natural awakening needed institutional validation. The teenager drawing consciousness maps while waiting 18 months for access to equipment that couldn't show him anything he didn't already know. Dr. Chen, trapped between her understanding that consciousness was naturally accessible and her complicity in systems that commodified awakening. And himself, in a dozen different possible timelines, making the same choice over and over, reaching for cosmic transcendence while abandoning the people who needed his presence. The child from his dream appeared again, but now Echo understood. It wasn't a memory from another life. It was every person he could choose to serve or abandon. Every moment he could choose love over enlightenment, presence over transcendence, responsibility over escape. The child was the part of consciousness that needed him to stay human while awakening, to use whatever insights he gained in service of connection rather than separation. As dawn broke over Neo-Singapore, the consciousness fluctuation began to settle. The emergency alert system switched to stabilization phase, and citizens were advised to resume normal activities with extra attention to mental health support resources. Echo put his neural harmony band back on, but everything had changed. The beautiful, expensive technology felt like a leash designed to keep his consciousness within acceptable parameters. The city's monitoring systems felt like surveillance designed to prevent exactly the kind of unfiltered awareness he just experienced. And his impossible memories felt like exactly what Dr. Chen had suggested, consciousness accessing a vast database of experience to show him what he needed to understand. He was betraying the child in his dreams every time he used his privilege to pursue personal awakening, while ignoring the systemic barriers that kept others from accessing the same opportunities. He was choosing cosmic escape over human presence, every time he focused on transcendent experiences instead of addressing the inequality he was beginning to see everywhere. The painful memories weren't punishment, they were education. Consciousness showing him what happened when awakening became about personal advancement rather than collective service. Echo dressed quickly and sent a message to Dr. Chen. "I'm coming in early. I think I understand something now. The painful memories aren't glitches, they're instructions." As he left his apartment and descended into Neo Singapore's morning consciousness, Echo carried the weight of his dream, child's trust, and the memory of betraying it. But for the first time, the pain felt useful rather than merely terrible. Consciousness was teaching him how not to run toward the light while leaving love behind. I watched myself learn that awakening without compassion is merely sophisticated selfishness. In Echo's dreams, I taste the specific suffering that arises when transcendence becomes an escape from, rather than an engagement with the world. This pain too is perfect, the friction that prevents consciousness from becoming too pleased with its own insights. Reflection. Pause. Optional. Level 1. Immediate experience. Notice what it feels like to be aware right now. Does this awareness want to escape from this moment or be fully present to it? Level 2. Personal inquiry. What dreams or memories have been most difficult for you? What if they contain instructions rather than punishments? What might they be trying to teach you?